And he was kind of overweight and he wasn't in very good health, so I wasn't that worried about him. But I had his hands cable tied, and then I had a seatbelt on him too. And
was he in the back?
Yeah, he was in the back on the passenger side. And like I say, they were wondering what was going on. So I don't know. I guess I just told them a story that I thought was somewhat believable, so they wouldn't freak out on the way out there. Told them I was taking them to a drop house, and there were other people that were going to meet us there, and they were convinced that I had the wrong people, and that they didn't. I think they thought it was case of mistaken identity or something. They thought that they were, because I was asking them about drugs too when I was in the house, and I hadn't decided for sure at that point what to do with their bodies, so I threw a bunch of stuff out of my car into their car trunk. I had a shovel, had some diesel. I had a big roll of the 55-gallon trash bags. And the Drano, I threw that in their trunk. And I just remembered I had a stash of that. This is kind of unrelated, but made me think of it. There's a shovel and 2 gallons of Drano up on the road in Eagle River. That's the place I had staked out before I went back east. That was right after I had finished the gun. And there were a couple days when Kimberly was out of town and Lainey was staying with her aunt. I was out looking for trouble. I had that place up there staked out actually 2 or 3 nights. And then I had a couple of parks here in town that I could ride my bike to. I had those staked out. And but there's still a couple gallons of Drano and a shovel stashed up there on
like Highland Road?
No, I don't know if it's Highland Road. It's the one that goes up to the North Fork Eagle River. You take the road that goes right by the Walmart there, and you just keep
Eagle
following
River
that
Road,
up. Yeah. You drive up that, and then off to the right, there's a gated parking area. There's like some restrooms. There's like an outhouse down there, and I had that place set up for a while. I had a bag stashed in the bushes there with all my stuff in it, and a cutoff tool, battery-powered cutoff tool, and a padlock. And the plan there was I had that parking lot staked out, waiting for somebody after, like fairly late. I was going to take them and use the cutoff tool to lock the gate, and then do my thing there in the parking lot. And then I had the Drano and the shovel stocked up there as a way to get rid of the body if I needed it. So,
but that never happened.
No,
and we're talking about like May of 2011.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I threw all that stuff in their trunk and went out started driving out to the house. It was really late. There wasn't anybody on the roads or anything, and got out to the house and parked back behind the house there. And she was in the front seat, and I thought I had her pretty secure. Like I say, at that point I thought I wasn't really that worried about it. I think I even had the seatbelt cable tied together so that she couldn't just pop the buckle and get out. My plan was to take him into the basement, tie him up separate, and then take her upstairs. there were these 2 queen-size mattresses in the upstairs corner bedroom. And that's where I planned to take her, and then him I was going to leave downstairs for a while, and cable tied his hands down to the stool so he couldn't stand up, and then like had the stool backed up against the wall, and thought I had it pretty well secured. And well, I mean, it must have taken me longer than I thought, because I came out of the basement and she was standing right there by the door. She had got out of the car, or she was in the process of like, she just had thongs on her feet, and she had somehow broke the cable ties on her hands and on her feet and got out of the car. She was almost to the road when I came out of the basement, and she saw me come out and she started running, and I tackled her on the lawn and roughed her up a little bit and tied her back up and took her upstairs.
It was a race to the finish line, so to speak, as Israel dragged the 2 struggling hostages to the car. They made great efforts to turn the tide of battle. Israel planned out the ideal scene in his head, but Bill and Lorraine refused to give in quietly to his desires. As he remembered and spoke about his attempts to break the couriers and their fighting spirit, he looked boldly at his captors, the investigators, with a satisfied and adrenal look about him. He then began to elaborate on the rest of his plan, with the FBI officials sitting with him, describing his intentions to rape the couriers and then to kill them each according to his own schedule. It's clear from this clip, though, that's not what happened.
Took that upstairs, and she was already struggling again, trying to get off the bed, but she hadn't actually got off yet, and I took the nail and drove it into the window facing the side of the window facing the road there, and did another trucker's hitch on that side, and just kept tightening both of them till her legs were like spread eagle, and she couldn't move at all really. And then I heard some movement downstairs, because at that point she finally shut up a little bit, and I heard something downstairs, and that's when I started having problems with the guy. I went down there, and he had the stool. He was kind of a big guy, like overweight, and the stool had just collapsed. And I guess when it collapsed, the cable ties that I had on his wrist behind his back, they had broke, and the stool came apart, and I don't know, just messed my whole plan up. So I was kind of pissed off about that, and I was like yelling at him, like, why are you trying to get away? You're just making it worse. And at that point he was still like trying to talk me out of it. He was like, just let us go. I know you're in too deep, but we haven't really seen you. You can still walk away. And I just kind of laughed at him. I was like, I don't know if I actually said anything, but in my head I was like, you don't even know how much planning I put into this, and just walk away. And but he wouldn't. At that point, like I say, he had just reached a point where he wasn't going to cooperate no matter what. And I didn't have the Ruger 1022 on me. I had it. It was upstairs in the backpack. I had my 40 cal, and I had a knife, and I didn't want to use the knife on him because I'm like, I'd make a big mess. And so I think I just kind of grabbed him by the neck and pushed him up against one of the posts and put the knife to him, and he still, like, he had his hands out, but he still wasn't doing what I said. And then I started getting pissed, and I just told him, I was like, I have a gun upstairs, and if you want to do this the hard way or do it the easy way, it's up to you. He didn't really believe me or take me seriously or whatever, so there was a shovel in the basement, and I hit him with that a couple times, and he was still trying to wrestle with me and stuff, and I just came to the realization that he wasn't going to stop fighting, and And so I knew I was either going to have to knock him out or just kill him. But by then I already had her all set up upstairs, and it was, it was annoying me that I was having to deal with him, and that was part of the whole plan for taking a couple. I had this idea in my head of what was going to happen, and she was screwing it up, I guess. So so once I realized he wasn't going to let me tie him back up again, I just kind of gave up on that part of the plan. I was like, oh, I'm just going to kill him, I guess. And the plan was to have him. I was going to rape her, and I'm not going to say what I was going to do, but there was like a plan I had that he was going to be involved too, and but once he wasn't tied up anymore, I just felt like it was kind of a waste of time, and so I went back upstairs. I ran back upstairs, and by then I was all amped up, and grabbed the 1022 out of the backpack. I didn't want to shoot him with the 40 cal because there was a cop car right across the road. I don't know if it was the sheriff's house or if his car was just there.
Parked in the driveway or something?
Yeah, it was there was a house probably only 100 yards away. The 40 cal was loud, and I was paranoid about using it, so I ran back upstairs and grabbed the 1022, and I had usually when I was carrying those, I always had like the 50 round drum with me, or all the other magazines, but when I was carrying it, I would just carry it with the 10 round magazine because it would fit up under my jacket better. And so I grabbed that, and I grabbed the silencer and put that on, and I was upstairs for maybe not very long, like 20 or 30 seconds, and she was still on the bed. She couldn't move anywhere at that time, but she could tell that things were not going well. I think I was cursing and stuff, and so like he kept yelling up after me up the stairs. He was like, "Where's my wife? What's going on?" And I was like, I told you you're not going to cooperate. You can do it the hard way. And came back downstairs, and he was standing at the bottom of the stairs in the basement still. It was like he didn't have any light, but I could tell when I came down the stairs, like he was trying to figure out like some way to fight me. He was like feeling around for something to hit me with, and I came back down the stairs, and I saw that. I said, "Oh, you're still not going to cooperate," and I had the gun out in front of me, like pointed from the hip, and had my headlamp on. He saw the gun, and he started to say something, and it just pissed me off, and I just started pulling the trigger. And he threw his arms up, kind of crossed them in front of him, it seems like, and I actually saw, like in my headlamp, I actually saw the bullets hitting him.
And so Bill Currier died at the hands of the monster. He fought valiantly, in a last-ditch attempt to save his wife from the clutches of Israel Keyes. It was to no avail, but the two fought to the end, and incurred, if nothing else, the imminent frustration of a serial killer whose plan had been foiled. Israel's account of these murders had been taken, of course, with a grain of salt, but the truth is, Israel's situation would only be exacerbated by lying and prolonging the criminal process, now that he'd been caught. It was in what he thought was his best interest to share the truth. Rightfully, the FBI recognized this fact, and have taken Israel at his word. In addition, when Israel began to share more details that would allow in the validation of his accounts as true, the investigators were able to easily verify all the details given, including an in-depth description of the courier's house, as he had left it a year ago. There was one other fact that Israel considered when choosing the couriers as his victim that warm, spring day. He saw no evidence that they had children. It may not be a specific need to avoid houses with children for most serial killers, sure. But when Israel Keyes had his daughter Lainey, he experienced what some may call a change of heart.